today's topic is first the strategy and execution model in an agile project. Okay, so when it comes to an agile project, so what is the strategy most of the organization follow? Because each organization follow different strategy in executing a project. Okay, so here I'm just putting a very high level diagram and giving an example, but I'm just telling you in prior that this execution model or the strategy, whatever I'm telling, may differ from organization to organization. For example, one organization may be having a little bit different, but not the entire way. Okay, so little bit different they may be using. So let me explain one by one. So here you can see this diagram. This is like a portfolio level diagram. So portfolio level means see, multiple teams may be working. Okay, so multiple teams may be working towards a common goal. And when it comes to story level, the story level will be team level. So this will be only for your team mostly. And this will be across the organization. They will be having this portfolio. So this is the execution model and this is the timeline. For example, whatever mentioned in mentioned here, this is like a legend kind of thing. So whatever mentioned here in this color will be taking years to complete. Whatever mentioned in this green color may take months, and whatever mentioned in this light green color, it may take weeks to complete. And whichever mentioned in the red can take days to complete and hours to complete, whatever written in orange. Okay, so just for your understanding, I have differentiated here. And here always understand each level will have a goal and will be having different timelines here. Okay, so this upside triangle represents the time frame. So I have mentioned here also the time frame. Okay, so see, I told already what is an agile project and how it works, right? So consider we took the use case of an Amazon. So when it comes to Amazon, see, the entire Amazon, not a single project, not a single team will handle. There may be multiple teams handling, right? So what they will be doing is the business owners, what they will do is they will create different themes. So themes means, see, themes is nothing but it's a very high level business goal. For example, introducing Amazon Pay. Okay, it may be a theme. So introducing Amazon Pay may be having integration with many other modules also, correct? Amazon Pay may be available in like the other options and many other like cash payment options. So many other teams may be using the same. So on the whole, this is like a strategic level. So very high level business goal will be called as a theme. So what they will do is this theme they will divide into initiative or epics. But some organization use initiative only, and that initiative they will further divide into epics. Okay, so just it is here it is mentioned initiative or epics, and then what they will do is this epics they will divide into future. For example, future means it's nothing but the functionality. So Amazon Pay means the functionality is Amazon Pay wallet, right? So Amazon Pay wallet is an one functionality. So they may be having that as a separate future, and then that separate future they are going to divide into many. They are going to divide this future into user stories. So this is known as stories. Stories are nothing but it's a very short level description, short level requirement you can tell. Okay, so this stories is what the team is going to exactly work within a sprint. I told already one sprint means it's a time boxed event of 2 weeks, right? So they are going to work in the story only for those 2 weeks, and then for each story they will divide into different tasks. So these things I will be explaining slowly, but now try to understand the hierarchy. The hierarchy starts from theme, initiative or epic, and then that will be divided into future, and then story followed by task. Okay, here you can see very well this theme. To complete a theme it will take multiple years. A theme may be a very large business goal, very high level business goal. For example, Amazon Prime, we have introduced Amazon Prime, right? So in Amazon, so that may be a very big theme. Okay, so that introducing that itself, they would have taken it as a theme, and then they would have divided into initiative or epics, and that initiative or epics to complete that it will take months, and then this future it will take weeks to complete. And the stories, I told already a story should be small enough to be completed within a sprint. It should be small, okay, as much small as possible. So it may take like some days only. And when it comes to the story will be again decomposed into subtask or task. That may take few hours only. So this is the overall execution model in Agile project. Now, let me explain each and everything with an example. Consider, see, here you can, this is just an example for you to understand. You would have used Amazon, and in Amazon there will be a wish list, right? So wish list will be there, correct? For example, if you like any product, you can add it in the wish list and you can keep it. Yeah, you can add it in the wish list and you can keep it, right? So this is an entire theme. Consider that in Amazon there is no wish list, and now they're going to introduce the wish list for the first time. Okay, so this will be coming under the theme, and this theme they are going to divide into initiative, or I will tell this as an initiative. Okay, so this is an initiative. Just have to try to understand this is as an initiative for an epic. As a customer, I want to be able to have wish lists so that I can come back to buy products later. So this is the overall the hierarchy here. It is mentioned it will be an overall theme. We can consider it as a theme, or sometimes they may be considering this as a initiative. Okay, so this is one initiative, and then they are going to divide this further. 1 minute. So initiative will be divided into future, right? This future is something like an optional thing. We can even divide into future, or directly you can divide into stories. Okay, some organization they used to divide the initiative or the epic into future, and then they will divide it into a story. But in few organizations, they will directly from the epic itself, they will divide into user stories. So here you can divide into two ways. One is, as a customer, I want to be able to save a product in my wish list so that I can view it again later. And then another requirement is, as a customer, I want to be able to view my wish list so that I can buy items from it. That means you can understand this item, right? So how different is this? This is only for view, but this is for purchasing the items. So there should be purchased item from the wish list. They are going to divide further. Here, what they are doing is put add to wish list button on each product page. That is the first thing they should do, right? So this is coming under, see, I'm just explaining you very clearly. This is their theme, this is an initiative, and this is an user story. This is a story. Okay, so this particular initiative or epic, they are dividing into two user stories, and this user story they are going to divide into task. So one task is they should put the add to wish list button on each product page is one task. Then create new DB to store wish list items. So in database and backend also they need to do changes, right? So for that also they need to have a story. They need to have a task. So on the whole, if these two, that means put add to wish list and create new DB is completed, then this entire story will be completed. In the same way, see, as a customer, I want to be able to view my wish list so that I can buy items from it, right? So for that, first, what we need to do is you need to create a page to display the user's wish list, right? That you need to do, and then add view wish list link to home page. So you need to add that is a new link, you need to add it in the home page. So when you're doing these two things, then this particular user story will be completed, correct? So this is the task you need to do. So are you able to understand how the requirement is coming into organization? That means to the product owner. I told very clearly that to the product owner, everything will be coming, right? So the product owner will be receiving this, and then along with the team, they will come up with user stories. So at last, the team is going to work on user stories only. That means the stories only they are going to work. Now, when it comes to the definition point of view, I want to explain what is a theme. Theme, as I mentioned, it is a high-level business goal. And mostly this is owned by business owners or program managers. See, these are not very Scrum roles, because Scrum we have only 3 roles. Here, this is a very high next level. It's the portfolio level role. So business owners will be there. They are the one who is owning the business, or they may be the primary stakeholders. So this team, they will be the one who will tell that this is what I need. And then that will be further divided into epics, right? So epics are nothing but large level requirements or needs of the business. In other words, you can also tell epic is a big story. Combination of many stories is an epic. I'm telling the vice versa here. You can understand here. See, many epics, one epic. Here we are dividing into many stories. Vice versa means many stories are combined to form an epic. Correct? The same. And then this epic is owned by the product owner. This is a very important point. Who is owning the epic? Epic will be owned by the product owner. And then mentioned earlier, when it comes to time frame, multiple sprints may be taken to complete one epic, but at the max they can take 1 quarter. So an epic should be in such a way that planned in such a way that it can be completed within 1 quarter. Do you know like what is in 1 quarter? 1 quarter means it's almost 3 months, right? So 3 months. Yeah, 3 months equal to 1 quarter. You used to tell like Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, right? So within 3 months, you should be able to complete.
Apart from product owner, no other can own the epic, right?
Yeah. See, product owner is the one like who need to come up with epics. And then an important point is this epic should answer one important point. Why we need this epic? Because see, the customers or that means the stakeholders are given in the form of a theme only they'll be giving, okay, to the product owner. And here the product owner is the one who should decide, okay, these are the epics like we can plan, and they should also mention the business need, why we need this epic, because then only it will be transparent to the team that why we are building this particular. Correct? Else the team may not be very clear. Why? It should always answer why we need this. And then I'm just giving an example here. See, there is a standard way of writing this epics and user stories. I will explain you clearly. But right now, you just have a read here. As a registered user, I should be able to buy clothes using various payment options. If you carefully look, you will see that this talks about registration. Yeah, see, what is this talking about? See, this is the epic. Okay, as a registered user, I should be able to buy clothes using various payment options. So here they're talking about 3 things. One is registration, because as a registered user, right? Registration, they're talking about payment options, and one is buying. So here, this one epic, what they will be doing is the product owner need to take a call whether this can be completed within 1 quarter or not. Approximately it is 6 sprints. The reason why I'm telling is, see, one sprint, we are following a 2-week sprint, right?
Yes.
Equal to 1 month equal to 2 sprints. So
okay,
on the whole, if you're taking like 3 months, 3 months equal to 1 quarter means it is 6 sprints, right? So within 6 sprints, whether we will be able to complete this or not. Else, what the product owner should do is, he or she should further divide this epic into another epic, able to complete within 1 quarter. Okay. Mentioning is epics can span across releases. See, when it comes to release planning, I will explain this. For now, you just have this understanding. An example for an epic. And then futures. Now, I told this futures, some, when it comes to some organization, they may not use future. Okay. But few product owners, they used to divide this epics into different future. So precisely what the futures will define is the needs of the customer. They will see this epic is going to explain like what the business is expecting, but this future will even more precisely tell what the customer is expecting. Okay, let us see an example here. You can see here we saw an epic, right? As a registered user, I should be able to buy clothes using various payment options, but they didn't mention what is the payment options, right? Yeah, this feature will be even more precise, and it will tell user registration, payment via credit cards and payment via PayPal is the one which they are expecting. You are able to understand, right? Why they are dividing the epic into future, because this clarity. And then further, this epic, this future, they will divide into user stories. So this user stories is something, it's a detailed definition of each requirement or a future. So this will be, you will be you'll be very well understanding that, see, this will be even more precise compared to the futures. Okay. And this will be owned by
Yes.
the developers. We will be having developers in the Scrum team, right? So in the Scrum team, developer will be there. So they will be owning this. And this user stories include subtasks created by the story owners. See, this subtask I will explain you later.
Yeah.
But right now, just have an
Okay.
understanding that user story is something which is a detailed definition of each requirement. And then one important point is stories are smaller pieces of functionality and they directly map to an epic. See, we are dividing the epic into user stories, right? So each epic should have one user story mapped, correct? And each user story should have an epic mapped, correct? Then only we will be able to understand whether we are completing with an epic or not. And then an important criteria is, I told for an epic, you should be able to complete within 1 quarter or even less than that. When it comes to story, it should fit within one sprint. That means within 2 weeks, the team should be able to complete. That is a very important criteria. So what is the meaning of that? Means an user story should be as much small as possible. You need to slice or you need to split the user stories as much small as possible so that the team can complete within one sprint. One more important point here is an user story should answer what you are expecting, what the business is expecting. I will an example here. See, for user registration feature, see here we have mentioned that we need 3 features, right? One is user registration, payment via credit cards, payment via. So this user registration divide into, okay, for user registration future, we can have the following stories. So we can divide into 3 stories. Story number 1 is, as a new customer, I should be able to register on the website using my first name, last name, email ID, and password. This you know very well, right? In most of the website, they follow the same, right? They're going to use the first name, last name, email ID, password they're going to ask, and then you can register. And then second story, you can even split this functionality as a new customer, I should be able to register to the site using my social credentials. You would have seen an option, login via Facebook, login via Google, or login via Twitter, right? So that option also should be available. So this is something, this registration is separate story. And then as a new customer, I should be aware of any errors that need to be corrected while filling up the registration form. This is nothing but, for example, see, you would have known the registration page, their first name, last name, email ID, password. They would have made it mandatory, few fields, and few fields may be optional. So if the mandatory fields the user is missing while registration, then an error should be prompted, right? It should correct. So for that, we can have a separate user story. So on the whole, now you are able to understand how they are dividing, right? So I clearly explained what is the theme, epic. So epic, see, now if you are going the vice versa, if you are completing these, everything, user registration will be completed, right? That means user registration feature will be completed. And then when we are completing the user registration, the other option, whatever mentioned here, then on the whole, the epic will be completed. So this is how the hierarchy works in an Agile. Got it, right? The part I mentioned is, see, here I have explained up to this with an example. Now the story, how they are dividing into task and what is the use task. Okay, so here I am just taking this example. As a new customer, I should be able to register on the website using my first name, last name, email ID, password, so that my profile is created successfully. So this story will be owned by one developer. For example, consider a developer, and you may be owning. So what you need to do is you need to divide this, whatever work you are going to do. That means you are going to complete this user story, you should be creating task under the story. Actually speaking, in real time, if you are using Jira, people will be using, see, there is a Jira is a project management tool, and if you are using Jira, people will create a subtask under each story. That means they are going to divide. How they are going to divide is, they are going to divide the development related activities into one task, and then back-end activities into one task. Separately, they are going to divide. Okay. So here, task is nothing but the actual work which you need to complete in order to complete a story. That is known as the task. Let me explain with example. And I told already very clearly, one user story should take at the max of one sprint, and whereas this task you should be able to complete within less hours or less days. You should be able to complete. And the task should tell how you are going to complete the user story very clearly. Let me reiterate the same example here. See here, the development task. So when it comes to the development task which is required to complete the user story mentioned above, as a new customer I should be able to register. See here, task number 1 is you need to handle UI as well as backend, right? That means front end as well as backend, right? The user should be, you should create a UI in such a way that the user should be able to fill up a form. So that UI form, that is one subtask task. And creating a backend DB table that can store customer information. That is the second task. And the next task is password encryption. You need to encrypt the password, right? Password should not be visible, right? So that encryption around the password field. That. And then user registration, you need to have a separate API creator. API, you are aware, right? Have you worked with APIs before? APIs? So it's actually an application program interface. If the application will be interacting within different modules using API. Okay. You should have QA task. QA task means QA, you know, right? Testing, right? So means testing means under the testing, like what you will be doing, you need to create the test cases for the story. And then if you are using automation scripts you need to write. And then for execution, you need to have one task. And then if you want to create test data and then you need to check, then you need to identify and create test data. So on the whole, if you are completing all these activities, then only this story will be completed. Correct? Am I right? Now clear, right? Now you are able to understand. I'm just coming back to the same table. Now you are able to understand from the bottom. Story, future, initiative, or then theme. Okay, perfect. Just moving to the next. Okay, the same only. And see, you should very well understand that if all these things are completed, then only this story can be marked as done. Otherwise, we cannot mark the story as done. For example, if only, see, without, some people may be doing some agile anti-pattern. Okay, so what they will do is they will do the development separately and testing separately. No, development and testing should happen concurrently. So once you are consider you are a developer, so you have completed this, then you will deliver this code to the testing team. So testing team will do the testing and you will start working on the next story. This is how an entire agile should work. Okay, so here this is just a same diagram. I have epic future user story, the same thing with a different example. So let me skip this. And okay, now I have mentioned to you user story, right? So user story, I'm mentioning to you for a very long time that user story, right? So user story or story. So what is that exactly? Let me explain. So as I mentioned earlier, see, this user story, I have explained like what is a user story, but how to write an user story, I'm going to explain. So user story, as I mentioned, it's a very short description, or it's a very detailed definition of one requirement, correct? One requirement will be explained in a very detailed way. So that means if someone is reading your user story, the developer, anyone should be able to understand what you want to do as a part of this user story. So for a user story or story, both are same. Okay, don't get confused. Both are same. So going forward, I'm going to use the term story. So to write a story, we have a definite format. So this is the format as, and this is a variable quantity. So I have mentioned within open bracket as a user persona. I want to perform this action so that I can accomplish this goal. What this means is, previously you saw, right, as a registered user, I want to do something so that I want to achieve something. if I'm going to ask you to write a user story, now you can itself write as a new user, I want to register in Amazon website so that my profile
I
is created. The simple way, right? So you can write, this is the simple way to write a user story. So this, who will write a user story, everything next I will cover. First, this is the format for writing any user story. Even epics also, they follow the same format. They used to write the epic also in the same format mostly. Okay. And then now moving to the second thing. See, for every user story, two things are very important. One thing is user story description, and second thing is acceptance criteria. So acceptance criteria is nothing but, see, it is a set of criteria which needs to be satisfied in order to verify that whether it is completely behaving as expected. For example, this user story. How will you consider this user story as done? In two ways you can consider this user story as completed. How? I told the first way. That means if all the tasks are completed, you can mark the story as done, I told, right? The second I'm mentioning is that for each user story, the product owner will be writing the acceptance criteria. Okay. So the acceptance criteria means they will write what they are expecting as a part of this user story. So they will be writing in different format. There are two ways to write an acceptance criteria. Way is given, when, then format. Given, when, then format. This is something related to BDD, behavioral driven development, they used to tell. But right now, just have this understanding that given, precondition, when you're doing something, then this outcome should be happen. So I'm just taking a scenario and explaining to you. Okay. Consider that I'm just taking a student portal. So here student has unfinished classes and request class schedule. So given is the precondition. So precondition is that the student should be logged into the website, right? Already using his credentials. So that is the precondition. And the student should have unfinished classes. So these two are the precondition. When the student is requesting, when student requests class schedule, now student is asking, hey, I need the class schedule. Then student's customized training plan is viewable. So this is a simple example how we are writing an acceptance criteria. Now you may have a question whether this is the only format available. No, we can write in other ways also. Okay, see here. I don't want to complicate. I'm just taking the same example. The login screen, you know very well how to write logins, how they will be writing in user story for a login screen. As a user, I want to have a login screen where I can log into the application using my credentials, username and password. So if they're entering correct username and password, user should be able to log in, right? So how you will write an acceptance criteria is you can write either with given, when, then format, or you can even write in the form of bullet points. What are the things they are expecting? So a valid user should be able to see login screen and provide credentials. Then after login, user credentials should be checked for authenticity. This is also very clear, right? What they are expecting from the user story. This is a very simple way. In this way also you can write. See, the user story format, I'm not telling like different. It is the same, however we wrote. But when it comes to acceptance criteria, some product owners used to write in this way and some used to follow